Flashback just 11 years ago, and the San Antonio Spurs were at the top of the NBA. It was their 5th NBA title in 14 years, a feat that no other team had been able to accomplish since the Jordan era.
The ball movement, once again unbelievable. Oh, Patty Mills does it again!
Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Coach Pop cemented themselves as Hall of Fame talent, after creating one of the longest-lasting dynasties of all time. Fast forward back to today, and it's clear that the Spurs are nowhere near that level of play. Or so we thought, because over the last few years, the Spurs have been secretly planning a takeover of the NBA like no other team has in the history of the league. And it all started with this moment right here.
With the first pick in the 2023 NBA Draft, the San Antonio Spurs select Victor Wembanyama from Nanterre, France.
Victor Wembanyama, being drafted with the #1 selection by the San Antonio Spurs, will go down in NBA history as one of the most iconic moments by far. For an organization as good as them to get the most hyped up prospect since LeBron was genuinely surreal. To make things even crazier, it is eerily similar to when Tim Duncan was selected with the #1 pick back in 1997. The situation in San Antonio was pretty different, but the landscape of the league was actually quite similar. The Western Conference was pretty stacked, with teams like the Lakers on the rise, the Jazz cementing themselves as the best in the West, and others like the Rockets, Blazers, and Suns looking to make deep runs with the hope of eventually beating Michael Jordan in the finals. So for San Antonio, who was struggling in the stacked conference, they knew that adding Tim Duncan to play with David Robinson would be the best move. When we look at the Spurs from then and the Spurs today, some really interesting themes start to line up. Number 1, a top draft pick changing the trajectory of the franchise while having other grown pieces around him. You see, the Spurs have always been a team that builds on homegrown talent that they develop on their own. They've never been a big market for free agency and have never really made big trades. In fact, almost every Spurs legend that you've heard of was actually drafted by them. We can see this very clearly with Wembanyama and Duncan, who were top selections that have been surrounded by players who have been with the team for a long time. What makes this situation so overpowered in the NBA is the fact that the players know the city, know the coaches, know the culture, and know what it means to play for the Spurs. This formula is exactly what led to a Spurs championship in 1999. The years following that were the Kobe and Shaq era, which the Spurs did a really good job of capitalizing off of in 2005 when it was clear that the Lakers were falling apart. That right there is also a strange comparison to what we're seeing today. The Spurs are really just sitting here, developing their talent and waiting for the perfect time to strike, just like they did in the 2000s. But if you weren't convinced that the Spurs are essentially copy and pasting their dynasty formula from back then take a look at this. Throughout the dynasty in San Antonio, which lasted from 1999 to around 2017, they had 5 key players that played a major role in providing championships and consistent winning. Those 5 are Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, David Robinson, and Kawhi Leonard. Every single one of those players was either directly drafted by the Spurs or acquired on draft night. Every single one of these guys were developed by the Spurs coaching staff, which became known to be the best in the league in the past 20 years. So knowing this, we can take a look at the Spurs roster today, which consists of Victor Wembanyama, Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, Jeremy Sohan, De'Aaron Fox, Keldon Johnson, and Carter Bryant. Off of that list alone, 6 of those 7 players were drafted by the Spurs in recent years. Now, I would argue that the Spurs aren't just using their formula from back then to win championships. They're taking it to the next level. And as of right now, the master plan is in effect. With San Antonio holding some of the best draft capital in the league and well under the second apron due to all of their young talent, they are easily in the best spot to win right now. Everyone is looking at Houston, OKC, Denver, and the Wolves to do well in the West, while the Spurs go completely overlooked. Not only do I think that they'll be an insane dynasty in the future, I think that they have officially arrived, and the winning will start right now. So far from Wembanyama, he's looked like the best two-way player in the league, and and was well on pace to win Defensive Player of the Year last year before blood clots put him out for the year. Not only was he putting up generational individual numbers, but the Spurs were on pace to make the playoffs for the first time in the Wemby era, and would have been a dark horse team going into it. With the development the Spurs have proven to be able to do with their young talent, I have full faith that Wembanyama will become something truly special. But Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper have the potential to turn it into one of the scariest backcourts in the NBA. Offensively, they're driven by speed and ridiculous size, with Wemby and Fox being the two main stars on the team. Now they have Luke Cornett, who provides a similar size and presence to Wembanyama. They now have the perfect rotation for their playstyle. Castle is one of the best young defensive guards in the league, while also being very raw on the offensive end, where the Spurs coaching staff will be able to mold him into the perfect guard. As for Dylan Harper, his versatility and playmaking ability makes him the perfect player to pair with Castle and Wembanyama for right now and the future. The secret plan for San Antonio has always been to try and build a team of NBA-ready talent that is young and won't be on large contracts for a while. Now that they have all these pieces on the same roster, and ones that can develop into great role players like Carter Bryant, the Spurs are right where they want to be. The West has never been more competitive, but despite that, the Spurs master plan is looking to reign supreme. The Thunder are going to go over the second apron in a few years, LeBron will be gone from the Lakers, and many more teams will have their futures in jeopardy, while the Spurs have theirs perfectly set up. With the young talent, hype, and cap space, the Spurs will always be a contender for any star that goes on the trade block, always ready to make the big splash whenever they want. This alone should be extremely concerning to the rest of the league. No other team in the NBA can say that they have an extremely bright future and have the cap space and assets to make whatever trade they want. The master plan isn't just in effect as of right now, but how exactly are the Spurs actually going to build their dynasty this time? It's no question that 2025 is very different from 1999. I mean, the entire world has changed completely with social media, technology, and the development of society. With this, the NBA has changed significantly as well. Free throws are the best way to score, flopping is glorified, and LeBron somehow still isn't the GOAT. Jokes aside, the entire landscape and culture of the league is very different. Every star wants to play on a stacked team, and not a ton of players value sticking with one team their entire career. To go along with that, the league is now global, making it much harder to get to the NBA, let alone stay there or become a superstar. Scoring reigns supreme, and teams are making blockbuster trades every single offseason. Despite all of that, the Spurs clearly have the secret sauce and are building a team that combats all of this. They have been extremely particular about the type of players they trade for and have drafted in these past few years. The personalities all mesh together, the playstyle perfectly complement each other, and the Spurs are headed in the perfect direction. Their dynasty starts with developing the raw talent they have and ensuring that their defensive pieces learn how to play good defense without fouling. Wembanyama and Cornett, their two centers in the rotation, are literally perfect for this. Due to their length and size, they can have a paint presence like no other and block many shots without even touching the player with the ball. This will stop the free throw merchant himself from being able to get into the paint against the Spurs while having to get around Stephon Castle, who we've already talked about as being one of the best defensive players in the league. Now, all of that is great, but for this team to truly become a dynasty, they are going to have to make a big splash in free agency or in a trade to truly get to the next level. I've been saying throughout this entire video that they have everything needed to do this and are just waiting for the perfect time. That time is right now. As the Spurs give their young talent one more season to develop, I think that the Spurs will either make a big trade deadline acquisition or a 2026 offseason move that propels them right into championship contention. What that move is, I'm not entirely sure. I would expect them to go after a scoring wing to add even more offense to the roster, which would surely make them a top 2 team in the Western Conference. It's the potential for a move like this which makes them even scarier than they already are with these young pieces in place. These potential moves, keeping their impeccable coaching staff and culture paired with the development of their high upside guys, is the recipe for the upcoming Spurs dynasty that is almost as good as guaranteed to be arriving soon. Over the course of the last 26 years, the Spurs have built a true name for themselves because of their win-at-all-cost mentality, the superstar players that they've developed, and the European-style team-first basketball they play. I have full confidence that this team will not only repeat their dynasty from the 2000s and 2010s, but go further than that and become one of the NBA's premier franchises once again. Not only do they have the pieces necessary to do so, but they have the fan support and front office to do whatever it takes to win in today's league. The Spurs are certainly in the most enviable position the NBA has ever seen, and the future is brighter than it's ever been in San Antonio. So if you enjoyed watching this video, make sure you subscribe so you never miss out on an upload with the NBA season starting back up. With that being said, I'll see you in the next one.